Hey guys, welcome back to Paradise. So it's officially been 5 years now that we have been on the road full time. Either in our truck camper that we are in right now, currently, and our Ford Escape that we were in earlier. We were in that for 2 years. And so we've been through a lot. We've seen a lot of stuff. We've been through a lot of adventures and seen a lot of crazy stuff along the way. So today I thought I would bring you a video on the top 10 craziest, scariest moments that we've had on the road so far. We'll start with number 10 here. We'll just call this one Doomsday. We were hanging out in Arizona, and this was early on when we were in our Ford Escape. And pretty much we were in the kind of middle of the desert here, and we got to our spot and unloaded our stuff. And then we decided to, we laid in the back of the Ford Escape, and we were just kind of watching the stars out the side window and stuff. And it was around Christmas time, so it was kind of chilly. And we just had Lily at the time, our oldest dog, and we looked out the side window, and I saw this, like, pretty much missile going up into the sky, and it just kept like ballooning out. And I looked at her and I was like, am I seeing stuff? So then she looked over and she was like, oh yeah, that's definitely there. So we get out and I'm like in my underwear and was like, it was so quiet. There was like no noise at all, but it just kept growing and growing. And we're like, okay, what's going on? And we didn't have service, so we didn't have any way to look it up or anything. And so it was during the time where we had a lot of turmoil in the United States and in the world and stuff, and it seemed like we might be going to war or something. But we just kind of went to bed because there was nothing we could really do about it. So we ended up waking up the next morning or the next couple days, and then we went out and got service. And it turned out it was SpaceX launching one of their rockets from California that we saw. So totally freaked us out. So it was super scary. That was one of the first things that we ever had that was like really scary. We didn't know what to do, but we're like, oh, there's really nothing we could do about it, so we just went to bed. So that's number 10. All right, number 9, we'll just call this one Shooter Mcgavin. There was a group of guys that decided to come up. We were in Montana at this mining spot, like way up at elevation, and we were there for a couple days, and there was a couple toys every once in a while driving by and leaving. A few of them stopped and actually looked at the mine, but this one group of guys, there was 4 guys, they all came up on their own separate four-wheeler, and they decided to park like right next to us. And we were all inside eating, and the dogs were inside, so I don't know if they didn't know we were in there or not. But either way, they all proceeded to get out their guns and start shooting, like randomly, like at anything. And it seemed like they were pretty inebriated or something, but it was pretty scary, because then I couldn't even like go outside to say anything. So it's either like we sit in here and maybe get shot, or I go out and get shot. So it was just kind of a weird situation that we got stuck in. So it happens a lot that people shoot, but that was probably the most scariest one. They were right next to our camper, probably like within 50 feet, and they were just kind of belligerently shooting everywhere. So yeah, that one was definitely one of the scary moments. Number 8, we'll just call Landslide. We were in Canada, and their public lands are a little less neat than ours down in the United States. They kind of trash theirs a lot. So we ended up going up this one road, and we were way up there, and we found this nice flat end spot, and we're like, all right, we'll camp here. And it really wasn't the best spot. There was only one little spot that was level, and it kind of like dropped off. There was like a huge cliff behind it, and it was literally just like dirt. So we're like, okay, it'll be all right. But then everything up the slope from us was clear cut. It was just cut down. So it was all just dirt. And we're like, okay, well, whatever. And we were sitting there, we were eating, and then it started raining. And we're like, okay, well, maybe it won't be that bad. And because I think we actually had service there, so we were looking it up, and we're like, it's not that bad. And it just kept raining and raining and raining, and it started to like slide. So we were like, okay, we got to get out of here. So we like started frantically like packing all this stuff up, and then once we got packed up, then we're like, well, now I got to get down the road. And the road, literally, if you ever been on a back road, the roads turn into the river because that directs the water down the road. So then the road like started giving out on the way down, because we're like driving into the little spout where the water goes through, and the tires kept getting like stuck in there, and luckily I had 4-wheel drive. But yeah, that was a little scary drive down, because then it kept grabbing you and like trying to like throw you off the road and down the teleslope. So that was definitely a heart beater there. All right, number 7, we're just going to call Trail to Nowhere. Again, we were in Canada, and we took this random road that we knew that was supposed to go to this trail that we were trying to get to. and it's in the middle of absolute nowhere. So we found the road finally. We had to ask for directions. Nobody knew where it was at, so we ended up just taking this random road, and we're like, it said there was a sign. Sorry. And then, there we go. And so we took the road, and we started going back in. At first, there's like this big suspension bridge and everything, and we get across. We're like, wow, this is nice. And then all of a sudden, the road like starts narrowing and narrowing, and then it's like trees just everywhere on both sides, like really thick trees. And then you start passing like private property signs and like really old cabins that are just deteriorated off the side. And we're like, okay. And then the road got really rocky and bumpy, and we couldn't really go more than like 5 miles an hour. And we're like, well, do we turn around or what do we do? So we were debating, and they were like, well, there really is nowhere to turn around because the trees were so thick on the sides. I'd have to back the whole way out. So we just kept going forward, hoping that maybe at some point we would find a spot that we could turn around and go back out. It got worse. It just kept getting rockier and rockier. And then sooner or later, we were on the talus slopes, and it was like super steep on this side, and then it got flat for the road, and then it was super steep on this side, and it was just like huge boulders that we were driving over with the Escape. So we're like, yeah, this is when we're in the Escape. So we had some decent clearance, but we were like kept going, and we had to keep stopping and getting out and like moving rocks so we wouldn't bottom out on them and stuff. But we were just hoping that we wouldn't meet anybody, because if we met anybody on that road, I have no idea what we would have did. There's nowhere to go. Somebody would have had to back up a long ways. So we just kept driving, and we're like, okay, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. And then I think it was probably like an hour and a half at about 5 miles an hour on this sketchy like talus slope road. Hopefully Heather's like looking out the window like, okay, here a little close. I'd have to like go up on the edge and stuff. And so we finally ended up coming to this opening, like finally an opening I could turn around at. And there's a sign for a trailhead. So it turned out to actually be the right road for the trailhead. So long story short, we did the trail, and then we came back, and we're like, the whole time I was hiking, I was like, I have to drive back out this road. So I got to do it again, and hopefully nobody's coming in at that time, which it was a pain to go back out again, but luckily nobody was out there. We were kind of on our own, which was nice, because I don't know if anything would have happened, we would have been screwed. We would have been walking a long way, because even to get to the interstate, that interstate or highway is not very highly traveled. So it would have been it definitely would have been a long day. All right, number 6 is going to be mountain lions. We were in Washington, right on the border of Canada, and we went for a walk, and we had all the dogs with us, and we went up this road, and it was fine. The road was really quiet. There's really nobody in there because it goes into Canada, so there's no traffic on it. So we just took this road, and then on the way back, we're like, well, let's just like beeline it straight to the camper and just kind of go over the hill, and we'll just hike that down to the camper. And it was just kind of tall grass, whatever, a couple feet high. And so we start walking, and Kluani, our middle dog, our big dog, was walking. They're all walking in front of us, and then he goes and just sits. And we're like, what's he doing? Like, what's he looking at? And there was like a little valley that we were walking kind of into, and there was some really tall brush in there. And he's just kind of sitting there looking at it, and the other two dogs were just kind of sitting there too, and we're like, oh, what, is there a bear in there or something? Joking about it. And right at that time, anyway, freaking mountain lion jumps out of the bush, and in like 2 seconds is way on top of this rock outcropping that's right next to us, and up over the ledge, and just disappears. And we were just both just standing there like, oh, I guess there was something in there. So we were just like stunned. We're like, oh, well, that's good to know. That's how we would react if we actually got attacked by something. We were both just standing there, which we had bear spray, and I didn't even get it out of the holster in time. It was just like, I was just so awed by what we saw. And so we're like, oh, wow. Our heart started beating like crazy, and we're like, oh, that would have been the end. And so we ended up just leashing up the dogs, like, well, let's go home now, and glad that we were still alive. So that was definitely a heart attack, one of those moments. All right, guys, I'm going to call that quits for today. There's 5 of the scariest moments we've had on the road today. Just stay tuned. Tomorrow, I will bring you the top 5 scariest moments that we've had on the road.